Grandma's heartbreaking journey of overcoming grief, and what happens next will shock you. Eleanor sat in her living room, the curtains drawn tight against the soft light of the late afternoon sun. The ocean roared just beyond her house, a constant reminder of life teeming on the other side of her grief-stricken walls. The house, once filled with laughter and warmth, now echoed with silence. The sudden loss of Richard, her beloved husband of 50 years, had left her feeling like a ship lost at sea, tossed by waves of despair and isolation. It began as a normal day. She awoke to the smell of fresh coffee. But this time, it was just her memories that brewed alongside the bitter scent. Tears came at the oddest moments, filling her eyes when she spotted his favorite mug or when the wind whispered through the open window, as if carrying secrets only he could decipher. But today was different. As she rummaged through Richard's old dresser, trying to find something, anything that might bring her back to better moments, her fingers brushed against something hidden at the back. A stack of letters, tucked away and yellowed with age. The handwriting was unmistakably his. Yet the content felt foreign, like a jigsaw puzzle missing its critical pieces. Each letter she opened unveiled a new layer of Richard's life, one she never knew existed. In these letters, he wrote of travels to distant cities, adventures filled with laughter and love that didn't include her. Mention of a Rebecca surfaced, an unfamiliar name that twisted Eleanor's gut. Who was this woman? Pieces of a life she had fiercely believed to be filled with love and devotion now felt like shards of broken glass. Heavy footsteps echoed from the hallway. Her son, Tom, had entered, his face clouded with concern. "Mom, are you all right?" he asked, his voice wavering as he caught sight of the letters scattered around her. Eleanor's heart raced. Did he know? Did anyone know? She hesitated. The letters clutched tightly in her trembling hands, as if they were weapons against an unseen enemy. "There's something I found," she started, each word tumbling out in a rush. "Richard, he wasn't who I thought he was." Tom's brow furrowed as he stepped closer, the air thick with tension. "What do you mean?" Eleanor swallowed hard. The thought of revealing Richard's secrets loomed over her like a storm cloud, dark and cold. She felt a sharp pain in her chest. "I found letters from a woman and places I've never heard of." As the realization settled between them, Tom's expression shifted. Concern mixing with something darker, a flicker of fear that perhaps the legacy they had protected could now shatter. Outside, the ocean churned violently, a mirror of her tumultuous heart. Just then, Eleanor's phone buzzed violently on the table, an irritating yet comforting reminder of the outside world. She shot a glance at it, then back at Tom, as an icy shiver ran down her spine. What else lay buried in Richard's past? What truths would emerge next? And what price would she pay for uncovering them? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Eleanor stared at her phone, heart racing. The buzzing felt like a pulse, a reminder that life was still happening outside her grief. Tom watched her, his brow furrowing deeper, as seconds stretched out into a silence heavy with unspoken words. Finally, she picked it up, her hands shaking. The screen lit up with an unknown number. She hesitated, unsure. Did she want another interruption? But as she glanced back at Tom, the concern in his eyes urged her on. With a deep breath, she pressed the answer button. "Hello?" she said, her voice a whisper. "Eleanor, it's Howard," came the gravelly voice on the other end, sending shivers down her spine. Howard was Richard's old friend, someone she hadn't spoken to in years. What could he possibly want? Uncertainty wrapped around her like a dark cloak. "Howard? Is everything all right?" she managed to ask, even as dread curled in her stomach. "It's urgent," he replied, tone grave. "I need to talk to you about Richard." A tightness clenched around her chest. "What's happened?" she breathed, as Tom leaned closer, straining to hear. "Can you meet me at the old pier?" "It can't wait," Howard insisted. Eleanor exchanged a glance with Tom. "The pier? Why there?" This wasn't just about the letters. She could feel a storm brewing. "I'll explain everything when you get here. Please, just come." Before she could respond, the call ended, leaving an eerie silence between them. Tom's questioning gaze pierced her. What did he say? "There's something he wants to tell me about Richard," she replied, her heart thumping wildly. I have to go." Minutes later, Eleanor found herself in the car with Tom. The weight of her secrets and Richard's hidden life pressed down on her. The road felt endless, twisting and turning, much like her thoughts. What had Richard kept from her? What other surprises lay hidden in his past? As they parked near the pier, the ocean roared defiantly, waves crashing against the wooden structure like angry spirits. Eleanor, end of the pier. "Are you sure about this?" She nodded, though her insides churned. "It's my right to know, isn't it?" As she scanned the horizon, she spotted Howard, pacing back and forth, his face pale and drawn. He looked up, eyes widening as he saw her approach. "Eleanor, thank you for coming. Just tell me what's going on," she demanded, desperation clawing at her throat. He hesitated, looking around nervously, as if the sea itself might eavesdrop. "It's about those letters. They're not the half of it." "What?" The words fell from her mouth as a cold wave of fear washed over her. A blast from the water startled them, but Howard pressed on, his voice barely above a whisper. "Richard wasn't just a husband, Eleanor. He had another life, another family, and it's about to come crumbling down. There's something you need to know about Rebecca. She's not just a past lover." "What do you mean?" Eleanor's mind raced, confusion tangled with anger. What else could it be? Suddenly, Tom yanked her arm. "Mom, look!" he shouted, pointing toward the water. Eleanor turned just in time to see something, or someone, breaking the surface. A figure emerged, gasping for air, flailing against the waves that thrashed violently around them. Heart in throat, she recognized the face. It was Rebecca. Shock washed over Eleanor like a tidal wave, pulling her under. Everything she thought she knew was spinning wildly. The woman who had invaded her husband's letters was now fighting for survival right in front of her. "Help!" Rebecca cried, her voice frantic, barely audible over the crashing surf. Eleanor's heart raced, a storm of emotion swirling. Did she dive in? Was this woman a threat or a victim? Whispers of Richard's hidden life echoed in her mind, waiting to drown her in uncertainty. "Mom!" Tom's terrified shout broke through her confusion. "What do we do?" Before Eleanor could respond, something pulled at her from behind. Another shock, hitting her like a thunderclap. A text on her phone chimed in, buzzing loudly in her pocket. She felt torn, her heart divided between the past and present. What now? She felt lost, like she was between two worlds, neither one fully hers. The unfolding truth was upon her, but she couldn't let it overwhelm her. Not yet. As she withdrew the phone from her pocket, a chilling thought slipped through her mind. What if saving Rebecca meant sealing her own fate? Would she dive into this chaos, or would the ocean claim them all? "Eleanor!" Howard called, urgency etched into his features. But all she could do was stare at the screen and wonder what other secrets lay waiting. Eleanor stood frozen, heart racing, staring at Rebecca. The woman thrashed in the water, gasping, "To do something!" But just as Eleanor prepared to dive in, a chilling wave of doubt washed over her. What was she getting herself into? The woman whose letters had unleashed this tidal wave of grief was now fighting for breath right in front of her. Everything shifted. The echoes of Richard's betrayal clawed at her mind, pulling her deeper into a web of confusion and rage. "Stay back!" Howard shouted, his eyes darting around like a trapped animal. "You don't understand." "Understand what?" Eleanor snapped, fire igniting in her chest. "What could possibly be worse than this?" Before Howard could respond, a loud crack echoed across the pier, startling everyone. A piece of wood splintered beneath their feet as the structure trembled ominously. Eleanor felt the earth shift, the world tilt, and suddenly they were no longer just spectators in a tragic scene. They were participants in something bigger, something far more dangerous. "Get down!" Howard screamed, but it was too late. Eleanor barely had time to react as the pier buckled beneath her. The ground split apart, and out of nowhere, the wooden beams broke away. Eleanor clutched Tom, and Howard lunged forward, trying to grab Rebecca's hand. But the waves surged higher, pulling her away from reach. Then, just when it seemed like the ocean would claim her, a figure emerged from the depths, a man, rising from the water with purpose. He stormed toward Rebecca, eyes wild with terror. "What the hell are you doing here?" he yelled. Eleanor's heart dropped. The man was not only familiar, he looked just like Richard. The same jawline, the same set of determined eyes. It was as if a ghost had walked out of the ocean. "Who are you?" she gasped, shaky hands covering her mouth. Rebecca's eyes widened, raw fear clawing at her, but the man kept swimming, reaching for Rebecca. "I told you to stay away!" His voice thundered above the surf. "What is going on?" Eleanor screamed, her voice cracking. "Mom!" Tom pulled at her arm, wide-eyed. "Who is he?" As Eleanor struggled to comprehend the scene, a different feeling coursed through her. Fury. "You!" she pointed, shaking with emotion. "You're alive? Alive?" The man turned, and recognition hit Eleanor like a freight train. "How do you know me?" Everything spun. They were looking at each other like they held the universe's darkest secret. You're Richard's brother." The words fell from her lips, shock mingling with fury and confusion. The ocean roared as the realization crashed down around her. "Richard's brother?" Tom echoed, glancing between them. "This can't be. Is he the one?" "Yes!" Howard shouted, now frantic. Richard had a twin. This all explains the letters. The other life. Rebecca is connected to it all, Eleanor gasped, her heart pounding. What? No, this can't be right. The man turned his gaze to Rebecca, panic sharp in his eyes. I should have never let you come here. Eleanor stumbled back, disbelief wrapping around her. This wasn't just about Belair's. This was about her husband, her entire life shattered like glass. She couldn't catch her breath. Everything she thought she knew had flipped upside down. And as the waves crashed against the pier, she realized this was just the beginning. What other secrets were hidden beneath the surface? Who are you, really? Eleanor demanded, her voice shaking but fierce. The man clenched his jaw, eyes desperate. I'll explain everything, but first, we have to save her. As Tom pulled out his, returning her to the moment. What now? She felt lost again, and helplessness threatened to swallow her whole. But deep down, something whispered to her, a truth waiting to be uncovered. Eleanor stood frozen, heart racing, staring at Rebecca. The woman thrashed in the water, gasping, desperate. But the chaos inside Eleanor was louder than the crashing waves. Every second that lingered felt like an eternity, twisting her gut in knots. Mom! Tom's voice broke through the storm. We have to do something! But just as Eleanor prepared to dive in, a chilling wave of doubt washed over her. What was she getting herself into? The woman whose letters had unleashed this tidal wave of grief was now fighting for breath right in front of her. Everything shifted. The echoes of Richard's betrayal clawed at her mind, pulling her deeper into a web of confusion and rage. Stay back! Howard shouted, his eyes darting around like a trapped animal. You don't understand! Understand what? Eleanor snapped, fire igniting in her chest. What could possibly be worse than this? Before Howard could respond, a loud crack echoed across the pier, startling everyone. A piece of wood splintered beneath their feet as the structure trembled ominously. Eleanor felt the earth shift, the world tilt, and suddenly they were no longer just spectators in a tragic scene. They were participants in something bigger, something far more dangerous. Get down! Howard screamed, but it was too late. Eleanor barely had time to react, as the pier buckled beneath her. The ground split apart, and out of nowhere the wooden beams broke away. Eleanor clutched Tom, and Howard lunged forward, trying to grab Rebecca's hand. But the waves surged higher, pulling Rebecca away from reach. Then, just when it seemed like the ocean would claim her, a figure emerged from the depths, a man rising from the water with purpose. He stormed toward Rebecca, eyes wild with terror. "What the hell are you doing here?" he yelled. Eleanor's heart dropped. The man was not only familiar, he looked just like Richard. The same jawline, the same set of determined eyes. It was as if a ghost had walked out of the ocean. "Who are you?" she gasped, shaky hands covering her mouth. Rebecca's eyes widened, raw fear clawing at her, but the man kept swimming, reaching for her with desperate arms. "I told you to stay away!" His voice thundered above the surf. "What is going on?" Eleanor screamed, her voice cracking. "Mom!" Tom pulled at her arm, wide-eyed. "Who is he?" As Eleanor struggled to comprehend the scene, a different feeling coursed through her. Fury. "You!" she pointed, shaking with emotion. "You're alive?" "Alive?" The man turned, and recognition hit Eleanor like a freight train. "How do you know me?" Everything spun. They were looking at each other like they held the universe's darkest secret. You're Richard's brother! The words fell from her lips, shock mingling with fury and confusion. The ocean roared as the realization crashed down around her. Richard's brother? Tom echoed, glancing between them. This can't be. Is he the one? Yes, Howard shouted, now frantic. Richard had a twin! This all explains the letters, the other life. Rebecca is connected to it all. Eleanor gasped, her heart pounding. What? No, this can't be right! The man turned his gaze back to Rebecca, panic sharp in his eyes. I should have never let you come here. Eleanor stumbled back, disbelief wrapping around her. This wasn't just about the letters. This was about her husband, her entire life, shattered like glass. She couldn't catch her breath. And then with a sudden crash, a wave surged onto the pier, soaking Eleanor and Tom, swallowing them whole. In a spray of salt and chaos. When Eleanor blinked the water from her eyes, she caught sight of Howard, his face ashen. We have to move, he shouted, clutching Tom's arm and dragging him back. The structure creaked dangerously, ready to give way. As the man shouted for Rebecca, Eleanor felt a tug at her heart, a tether of loss and confusion that was too tight. Where are you going? She called out. But he didn't glance back, just kept diving deeper, reaching, his silhouette fading in the tumultuous water. Suddenly, a chilling scream pierced through the chaos, Rebecca's voice, rising in terror. The ocean! It's pulling me! She flailed, grasping at nothing. Eleanor's courage surged, but before she could react, something shifted. A shadow beneath. The water. Something larger than they'd all imagined. The ocean had teeth and it was hungry. Mom! We need to go! Tom yelled again, desperation cracking in his voice. But Eleanor could only stand there, frozen between past and present. All of this chaos swirled around them, every secret falling apart. As another wave battered the pier, a dark shape surged up, breaking the surface. A larger figure, something that sent a shiver racing down Eleanor's spine. What in the world is that? Tom whispered, eyes wide with fear. Just then, like a thunderclap, a voice boomed from beneath the water, an echo of something that made no sense, but filled Eleanor with dread. This is just the beginning, and the darkness below surged, wrapping around her heart, leaving Eleanor gasping for air, as everything she thought she knew began to twist and unwind. She realized with a chilling clarity that the truth they sought was much darker than she ever could have imagined. What other secrets had Richard buried? What awaited them in the depths? Eleanor stood frozen, heart racing, staring at Rebecca. The woman thrashed in the water, gasping, desperate, but the chaos inside Eleanor was louder than the crashing waves. Every second that lingered felt like an eternity, twisting her gut in knots. Mom! Tom's voice broke through the storm. We have to do something! Eleanor was about to hurl herself into the surf, fueled by a mix of anger and confusion. But just as she gathered her strength, another wave crashed onto the pier, the cold seawater soaking her to the bone. The ocean roared, not just with anger, but with something deeper. Stay back! Howard shouted, his eyes darting around like a trapped animal. You don't understand! Understand what? Eleanor snapped, fire igniting in her chest. What could possibly be worse than this? But the structure creaked ominously beneath their feet. The ground shifted, and panic surged through her. Get down! Howard screamed, but it was too late. The wood splintered, and Eleanor felt the pier buckle beneath her. As she clutched Tom's arm, everything changed. The loud crack of the pier, like a rifle shot, shattered the air. She stumbled, losing her footing, as Tom pulled her back. A massive wave surged upward, soaking her and pulling her closer to the edge, as if the ocean was reaching for her. And then she saw it, a dark figure rising from the depths, breaking the surface with a powerful force. "Oh, what is that?" she gasped, her breath caught in her chest, heart pounding. And then it appeared. Richard. Her Richard, dripping with seawater and rage, eyes wild. The breath left her lungs. "Eleanor!" he shouted, his voice cutting through the storm. "Get back!" Eleanor's heart raced. This couldn't be possible. "Richard?" she whispered, barely able to comprehend it. He looked at her with a mix of fear and desperation. "I'm not just your husband. I'm so much more than you." "No." "What do you mean?" Her voice trembled, caught between disbelief and a strange flicker of hope. "Rebecca, she's not just a lover. She's my twin." The revelation hit Eleanor like a slap, sending her reeling. "Your twin?" Tom echoed, confusion echoing in his voice. "What the hell is happening?" "Not just a twin," Richard shouted, the wind howling around them. "We were both sent to the same place, but I chose a different path." His voice trembled, eyes wild with emotion. "It was the only way to keep her safe." "Keep her safe?" Eleanor's mind spun. "From what? You kept this from me. You vanished, and I thought I lost you." Howard interjected, looking more terrified than ever. "Eleanor, you need to understand. Richard's life is a web of lies, and now it's all unraveling." That's when Rebecca, still struggling in the water, looked up, terror in her eyes. "Richard, you have to choose." Eleanor's heart dropped as the truth fell like a guillotine. "Choose?" Richard's voice grew frantic. "Eleanor, I love you. But Rebecca, she's my past, my family." "Family?" The word cut like glass. "How could you?" Eleanor's voice shook, tears threatening to spill. But before she could absorb it all, the ocean surged again, and a wave smashed into the pier, sending Eleanor sprawling. Tom grabbed her, pulling her back. "Mom, focus!" Panic blazed in his eyes. "What do we do?" As Eleanor struggled to get back on her feet, something shifted beneath her. Something huge and dark. The water churned violently, revealing it. A massive shadow, larger than she could fathom, was rising from the depths. A creature, ancient and terrible, breaking free from its watery grave. "Run!" she screamed. But Eleanor felt rooted to the spot. Everything she thought she knew was spinning wildly. What did it want? What other secrets lay in the wake of Richard's lies? And as the creature rose, its immense form silhouetted against the waves, Eleanor realized with a chilling clarity that they weren't just fighting for survival. They were standing on the cusp of an unknown horror, one that could alter everything. "Eleanor!" Tom's shout snapped her back. The creature loomed larger, teeth glistening, darkness spilling around. Had Richard's secrets awakened something more sinister? What would happen next? Would the past consume them all? Eleanor stood frozen, heart racing, staring at the massive shadow rising from the ocean. The water thrashed as if alive, and fear clawed at her throat. Was this the end? "Mom!" Tom shouted, panic flooding his voice. "We need to get back!" But Eleanor couldn't tear her gaze away. The shape in the water was bigger than her worst nightmares, dark and imposing. "Richard?" No, this wasn't Richard. This was something else, something ancient and grotesque. Did you summon it, Richard? Eleanor's breath hitched, anger mixing with desperation. Is this why you came back? Richard's face twisted in pain. It's not what you think. I didn't bring it here. Rebecca, still flailing, called out, You can't let it take me! It has a claim over me! Her voice trembled with fear, making it hard for Eleanor to breathe. The colossal figure surged closer, the water glistening around it, revealing a monstrous face with jagged teeth that glimmered like shattered glass. Eleanor! Don't let the fear consume you! Richard shouted, desperation spilling from his voice. We can fight it together. Fight it? How could they possibly fight something this powerful? You've lied to me, and now you expect me to trust you? Just then, the creature let out a roar that echoed across the pier, drowning out everything else. The force of it rattled the wood beneath their feet, and Eleanor stumbled back, grabbing Tom's arm to steady herself. Mom, we have to move! But before Tom could pull her further away, another wave crashed over the edge of the pier, soaking them both and sending splinters of wood flying. In the chaos, Eleanor turned to Richard, her heart racing. What do we do? What is this thing? That's when Tom yanked her arm hard, his eyes wide with horror. Look! Eleanor followed his gaze, and her stomach dropped. A massive form emerged from the ocean, gliding closer. It wasn't the horrific creature she had expected. It was another figure, just as monstrous, but wearing a familiar face. Richard! Eleanor gasped. Another Richard? Beneath the shadows, two faces stared back at her, one filled with love and warmth, the other shadowed with menace. The brother, the twin, she realized. You need to choose, Richard called out, looking back at her. His voice trembled, betrayal written all over his face. Choose between us. Choose? Eleanor felt the weight of the world bearing down on her. What do you mean? The second Richard grinned, an unsettling smile revealing sharp teeth. You can be part of our family, Eleanor. Just say yes. Leave this pathetic life behind and embrace who you truly are. Eleanor's heart raced. Of water and light. Eleanor stumbled back, her mind racing. She felt a pull deep within her, a whisper that made her question everything she knew about love, loyalty, and identity. What's happening? Eleanor cried, fear gripping her heart. The ground shifted beneath her feet, and fragments of memory began to surface. The laughter, the warmth, the family bonds she thought were solid. Maybe they weren't as real as she'd believed. The sea roared around them, drowning out her thoughts. With each wave crashing like a revelation, shaking her very soul. She hesitated, torn between two worlds, two lives. Make your choice! The monstrous Richard howled, the shadows of the sea wrapping around him. Eleanor felt the ocean calling, dark and seductive. What if? I choose neither, she shouted, heart pounding. Before she could question her own words, another wave rushed toward her, pulling her closer to the abyss. Mom! Tom yelled. But Eleanor was lost in the chaos, drowning in uncertainty. And in that moment, her world shifted, revealing secrets she never knew existed, leaving her teetering on the edge of everything. As she stood between those two men, one full of love, the other filled with darkness, she had to decide. Would she give in to this darkness or find a way to break free? Before she could grasp the answer, everything went black. Eleanor stood on the edge of the pier, feeling the wind whip her hair back like a wild flag. Everything inside her twisted. Tighter and tighter, heart racing, mind spiraling. The dark figure looming beneath the waves pulled at her thoughts, threatening to drown her in disbelief and confusion. And then it happened. Something shifted. A roar erupted from the depths, raw and primal, shaking the very foundations of the pier. The monstrous shape rising from the ocean twisted into something unimaginable. But it wasn't just a creature. As the spray of water parted, a woman emerged, her long hair flowing like seaweed. Eleanor squinted, the world narrowing until all she could see was the face covered in droplets. "Mom!" Tom yelled, terror lacing his voice. "Get back! Is that—" Eleanor gasped, eyes widening as the figure stepped closer, water cascading off her shoulders. Heart racing, recognition hit her like a fist. "Claire?" Eleanor barely whispered the name, disbelief flooding her senses. Claire, her childhood friend who vanished years ago after a family tragedy, was now standing in front of her, soaked yet fierce. "Eleanor!" Claire's voice cut through the chaos, strong and defiant. "I found you!" "What do you mean you found me?" Confusion twisted in Eleanor's gut. "You've been gone for so long. Everyone thought—" "Thought I was dead?" Claire interrupted, a wild light in her eyes that shocked Eleanor. "They were wrong. Richard isn't who you think. None of us are." "What are you talking about?" Eleanor felt her world tilting. "What do you mean, none of us? What happened to you?" "I'll tell you, but you have to trust me," Claire shouted over the roaring waves, urgency cracking her voice. "We are connected. Richard, Rebecca, it's all linked to something darker." Before she could process it, the second, Richard began to laugh, a chilling sound that echoed in the storm. "Did you really think you could escape your fate, Claire? You were never meant to come back." "Fate?" Eleanor spoke, her voice barely audible. She felt like she was losing her grip on reality. "What does that even mean?" Claire turned fierce eyes toward the monster and shouted, "This isn't just about you two anymore. It's about all of us. Richard's secret goes deeper. We're part of something larger, a family that has been torn apart. I had to find the truth." "Family," Tom echoed, his fear morphing into confusion and anger. "What does that mean for us?" But before anyone could respond, the ocean roared again, waves cresting higher, crashing against the pier's weathered wood. The two Richards faced each other, tension thick in the air. "You've brought this upon yourselves," the monstrous Richard taunted, stepping closer to the edge. "This is where it ends." "No!" Claire shouted, moving forward with purpose. "We won't let you destroy our future. We're stronger together." Eleanor watched this unfold, heart pounding. Questions flooded her mind. Who was Claire in this tangled history? What dark web bound them all together? Then, in a shocking moment, Claire turned back to Eleanor, eyes wild with urgency. "Eleanor, you need to know. You're not just Richard's wife. You were chosen, just like me." "What?" Eleanor felt the ground beneath her tremble again. These new revelations echoed like thunder in her heart. "You and I, we have the same blood," Claire pressed, reaching out in desperation. "It's time to embrace it." And just like that, everything she thought she knew about herself began to fray at the edges. The truth was monstrous, explosive, but so tempting, pulling her in. The monster from the depths let out a bone-chilling roar, and the pier groaned beneath him, spitting splinters into the air. Eleanor's heart raced, battling confusion and fear, torn between loyalty to Richard and the shocking truth about Claire. "Mom, what do we do?" Tom cried out, fear etching his young face. Was it possible? Was Claire right? Were they family, meant to join forces against something they had yet to fully understand? As the water surged higher, pulling everyone closer to the edge of madness, Eleanor felt the weight of her decision. "Stay back!" Richard snarled, taking a threatening step toward Claire. "You'll ruin everything!" Everything hung in the balance. The truth acted like a whirlwind, heavy and terrifying. Would she accept Claire's revelation or reject a sister born from shadows? The answer hung precariously, and Eleanor felt herself drifting toward the edge, the ocean whispering secrets she wasn't ready to hear. Eleanor stood on the edge of the pier, heart pounding, mind racing. Claire's revelation hung in the air, electrifying and terrifying. The monstrous figure beneath the waves stirred, shadows rippling as if responding to their collective fear. The two Richards loomed, one filled with warmth and love, the other twisted with darkness. "Eleanor!" Richard called, desperation dripping from his voice. "Please, don't listen to her. She's trying to manipulate you." The wind whipped around them, churning up the ocean, as if it could sense the tension. Tom gripped Eleanor's arm tightly, eyes wide. "Mom, we have to get out of here!" "Wait!" Eleanor cried, torn between the man she loved and the sister she'd never known. "Claire, what do you mean? What do you want from me?" Claire stepped closer, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We're part of something bigger, Eleanor. Choose me and we can break the cycle together." Before Eleanor could respond, the monstrous Richard laughed, harshly, the sound chilling. "You think you can escape this? You're not even aware of your true potential." At that moment, a surge of water exploded from the ocean, engulfing the pier and soaking them all. Eleanor stumbled, but as she regained her footing, something caught her eye, a flash of silver beneath the surface. It shimmered, cutting through the chaos like a beacon in the dark. "What was that?" Tom yelled, desperate. "Did you see that?" Eleanor nodded, frozen with shock. The silver shape glimmered again, darting closer, and her breath caught in her throat. The water thickened as the shape emerged. A massive silver necklace, gleaming like a jewel. But it wasn't just an ornament. It was wrapped around something, or someone. "Look!" Eleanor cried, pointing as the figure surfaced. The crowd on the pier gasped, voices mixed with shock and disbelief. "Who is that?" a bystander muttered, eyes wide. As the water receded, Eleanor's heart sank. The figure was an older woman, hair wild and gray, face weathered yet beautiful. But what made her blood run cold was the familiarity etched in her features. "Mom?" Eleanor whispered, incredulous. "Eleanor." The woman's voice was soft, yet the weight of history filled the air. "I've been searching for you." "Mom?" Eleanor's heart raced in disbelief. "You disappeared. I thought you were gone." "I thought you were safe," her mother replied, stepping onto the pier with the grace of a storm. "But they found me. Richard's family, they knew we had to be separated to keep you protected." Tom's eyes widened, confusion mixing with horror. "What are you talking about?" "In their search for power, they've kept secrets that run deeper than you can imagine," Eleanor's mother explained, glancing at Richard, whose expression had faded to one of astonishment. "They needed to bury the truth. You two, You're part of something that has been going on for generations. Richard opened his mouth to speak, but stammered, unable to articulate the thoughts racing through his mind. Claire's intensity sharpened. What do you mean, true power? Those lies and secrets, they're curses, passed down with blood, her mother continued, voice steady. The two of you are meant to unite, but fear and selfishness have kept you apart. In that moment, the ground shook beneath them again, the pier protesting against the truth flooding in. The tides turned ominously, the ocean rising higher, waves crashing like thunder. "Mom, what are you saying?" Eleanor shouted, panic rising in her throat. But before anyone could move, a darkness within the water surged upward, a shape bigger and more malevolent than before. The creature released a roar that shook the very air around them, a scream of rage that echoed across the pier. "Eleanor!" Richard cried, terrified. "This is just the beginning of what's to come." As tears streamed down Eleanor's face, the outline of the monster shifted, revealing yet another figure, a woman radiant and terrifying, like a goddess emerging from the depths, locking her eyes on Eleanor with chilling familiarity. "Join us, sister," the woman bellowed, voice carrying an authority that froze Eleanor to the core. The world around her darkened, and she could feel everything she thought she knew slipping away. Who were these people? What had they done? And as Eleanor met the gaze of this new threat, she felt the ties of loyalty to Richard, to her mother, and to her new life begin to unravel. She was caught in a web of secrets spun from shadows, and the monster lurking in the depths was just the beginning of a darkness far greater than she could have ever imagined. "Choose wisely, Eleanor," the woman's voice echoed, and suddenly everything she thought she understood trembled precariously at the edge of oblivion. What would she choose when the truth became a weapon? The world twisted around Eleanor, darkness swirling as the ominous figure addressed her. The piercing gaze of the woman, radiating both power and threat, sent a shiver down Eleanor's spine. It was as if the ocean itself had come alive, demanding her attention. "Join us, sister!" echoed in her ears like a terrible siren's call, was heavy with longing and sorrow. "This isn't just about us. Everything is connected. Your father, Richard, the secrets of our families. It's time for the truth." Just then, the monstrous figure in the waves roared, snapping her attention back. The storm churned around them, and panic erupted across the pier. Tom pulled at Eleanor's sleeve. "Mom, what do we do?" Eleanor's gaze darted between her mother's pleading eyes and the shadowy figure drenching the pier with its presence. The crowd gasped, murmurs rippling through the air, uncertainty echoing in the faces surrounding them. Just as the tension peaked, the waters surged again, thrashing ferociously. Eleanor felt something deep inside her, an instinct or a warning. She couldn't tell, but then an unexpected movement jolted. Her breath hitched. The stranger's eyes were piercing and utterly familiar. "Not again!" Richard shouted, taking a step forward, a ghostly pale look spreading across his face. "Who?" Eleanor started, but the newcomer's lips curled into an unsettling smile. "It's time to end this," the figure growled, shaking off water like a dog, revealing an identical face to Richard's, only this one seemed crueler, tainted with malice. "And to finally reveal what really happened," Eleanor's heart raced. "What have you done?" she yelled, the truth bubbling in her throat. Their shared resemblance hung between them, a heavy bond laced with anger. You were never hidden from me, brother, the twin snarled, addressing Richard with contempt. I was waiting for the right moment to claim what's rightfully ours. In an instant, the world grew silent. Everything fell away, a sudden shock enveloping the pier. Howard's face twisted in disbelief, Tom's grasp on her arm tightening, and the surrounding crowd fell into hushed whispers of horror. This is Richard's dark legacy, the newcomer declared, emotionless, stepping closer to Eleanor. This whole charade was a cover-up to protect you from the truth. The ocean doesn't just want you, it wants all of us. Our blood ties run deeper than loyalty. A cursed bond. What? The word hung in the air. Eleanor's throat dry as she stared between the two Richards. Why? You're lying. No, Richard interjected, anger flashing in his eyes. You're not supposed to be here. Not after what happened. Eleanor's heart pounded in her chest, racing against time. What happened? She demanded, ignited by a furious courage, but doubt clawed at her soul. Together, the twin said, voice low and threatening, we could wield unfathomable power, but safety and love are mere illusions. A sudden crash of waves interrupted what Eleanor's world had already shattered. The truth of consent, choice, and sacrifice crumbled before her, twisting into something unfathomable. Richard took a step in front of Eleanor, desperation in his plea. No, you're wrong. This is not who I am. I fought against this. The twin sneered. Fought? The bond runs deeper than you can imagine. And now, dear sister, you must decide where your loyalty lies. Eleanor's mind reeled, the ground beneath her trembling as the truth unfolded, a truth she never suspected. Were you all just waiting for me to uncover this? To pull me into your darkness? Just as realization flooded her heart, the ocean rose again, the tide crashing against the pier, an angry roar calling for blood. The twin raised a hand toward her, and time froze. Choose wisely, he bellowed, his voice echoing like a siren. A blanket of darkness swallowed Eleanor, drowning her in chaos. In that moment, every fiber of her being pulled taut. They were all linked, woven into a fabric he didn't even know existed. Who would she side with in this unfolding tragedy? As the darkness encroached and shadows flickered, she fell deeper into the unknown, ready to uncover who she truly was. Eleanor felt the weight of the world pressing down on her as she stood on the edge of the pier, frozen between the two Richards, one embodying her past and the other cloaked in darkness. The roar of the monstrous creature lingered in the air, churning the ocean into a frothy anger. You, she shouted, the sudden strength in her voice surprising even herself. I refuse to be a pawn in your games. I choose my own path. Her mother stepped forward, fierce and radiant, adding strength to Eleanor's resolve. You cannot bind her to this chaos. Eleanor deserves to know who she is, not what you wish her to be. The monstrous Richard sneered, but confusion flickered in his eyes. You think they'll help you? He spat. Join me, and we can wield unimaginable power. No, Eleanor shouted, her voice breaking the tension like glass. The true power lies in choice, in love, not manipulation. The twin recoiled, eyes wide with fury. You're a fool. You'll regret this. He lunged forward, but Eleanor took a steadying breath, channeling all the love she had for her family and friends. I stand with them, She raised her hands, feeling an energy swell within her, a warmth that radiated outward, pushing against the darkness. "You will not control me." The ocean, sensing her resolve, roiled in response. The waves towered, swirling as the darkness began to recede, breaking against the strength of her will. "Fight it," her mother urged, stepping alongside her, a bond forged in strength and history. "Mom!" Tom cried, fear etched in his eyes as he watched the twins stumble beneath the tidal wave pushing back. "What's happening?" With a fierce breath, Eleanor called out. "Trust in love. Together we're stronger than hate." That was the moment everything shifted. The air clashed with power, infused with their combined voices. Eleanor, Claire, Tom. With a great roar, the monstrous force howled, but as it did, the shadows began to disintegrate, surrendering to the light of their unity and belief. As the twin gurgled in disbelief, the dark waters swallowed him whole. Silence fell, heavy yet liberating. The monstrous whispers dissipated into the sea like ghosts, leaving only echoes behind. Eleanor swayed, breathless. Did we do it?" "Yes," Claire said, her eyes glistening with tears, uplifting and hopeful. "Together, we broke through their darkness." Exhausted, yet exhilarated, Eleanor looked at her mother, who smiled with pride. "You've become who you were meant to be, my daughter." Tom's arm wrapped around her, grounding her amidst the aftermath. "It's finally over, right?" Eleanor took a deep, steadying breath, glancing at the peaceful waves caressing the pier now. "Yes, but it's also a beginning." The sun peeked through the clouds, illuminating the remnants of their battle, casting a warm glow. They were safe, together, bonded by shared truths and choices made in love. As they made their way back, Eleanor felt a tide of gratitude wash over her, grateful for her family, for the friends she'd discovered. Life full of choices that belonged only to her. And with that, Eleanor stepped forward, hand in hand with those she loved. The ocean lay calm behind them, a testament to their victory, and a promise of a brighter tomorrow. But before the screen fades, you have to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss any of the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button right now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comment section with your thoughts and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. This is the moment to show your support and be part of our amazing community.